October is officially done and it's time to move into November. But first, we have to rank all 7 movies I saw. This was originally going to be 8, including Last Night in Soho, but I decided to just scrap seeing Last Night in Soho. So I'm just going to be going off the 7 that I did see, and so we're getting this out now, just a few days before I see Eternals. And this month was a pretty bad one. September did have its fair share of garbage, Dear Evan Hansen. But this month is mostly comprised of really bad movies, and there were very few good ones. So let's jump into it. In last place is Eileen Wuornos, American Boogie Woman. Jesus Christ. Daniel Farran strikes again. If you don't know who this guy is, I went into his work extensively in my review, but he makes a lot of trashy horror films about real-life events, including The Haunting of Sharon Tate, The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson, and a double whammy this year with American Boogie Man and Boogie Woman. The Boogie Man being Ted Bundy. And is this one the worst of his work? No, this isn't worse than the other two, but it's still a complete garbage fire. The acting's all miss, even out of Peyton List, who I know is a good actress, but not only is her accent atrocious, and her fake accent is atrocious, none of the dialogue, or the story, mind you, gives the actors anything to work with. The directing is superbly incompetent and features some hilarious shots, including one when someone is knocked off a staircase. And yeah, that made me laugh so hard. And just everything about this film is wrong. Literally everything about it is wrong. This is one of the worst of the year. It's probably objectively the worst, but subjectively there are other ones I hated more this year. But we'll get to that when the year wraps up. In 6th place is Injustice. God, was this a disappointment. DC has not been impressive. They haven't. I've gone extensively how bad DC has been for the past 20 years, maybe, almost. And this film didn't help change that negative perception. This year has been especially bad with the pretty bad The Suicide Squad, the awful Justice League, and now this garbage fire. The animation is very stilted, doesn't have any life to it. The action sequences are very few and far between. It doesn't capture any of the essence of the source material, whether it be the comics or the video games. Superman's turn is just on a dime, just like that. He immediately tries to take over the world and turns into a violent sociopath, kind of like Snyder's actually, which is not a good comparison. Characters are killed off in extremely insulting ways, especially Flash and Nightwing. And none of the characters are given any time to develop, especially other characters who were botched in this as well, such as Harley Quinn, and especially what they did with Wonder Woman was insulting. I hated this so much. Bringing us into our top 5, unfortunately, is Under Wraps, a shameful shot-for-shot remake by the Disney Channel, remaking a film by the Disney Channel. Who thought this would work? The 1997 Under Wraps is not a phenomenal movie, but it has a really cynical sense of humor to it that I oddly respect. It has a decent enough plot and actually pretty decent acting, especially for Disney. Or at least the Disney Channel. Disney usually gets pretty good actors. This thing for the Disney Channel. This has none of that. It has extremely annoying characters, especially the main character's black sidekick. That's what I'm going to continue to call him, because that's what he is. He is superbly annoying in this. All the dialogue's terrible. Everything, from the very first scene, you can tell this is a shot-for-shot remake with none of the cynicism that the original had, none of the fun the original had either. It's just a bland shot-for-shot remake. This is like the 2019 Lion King, just slightly less aggravating. Because I wasn't as attached to the original Under Wraps. Hell, I didn't see it until just before I watched the 2021 one. But that doesn't excuse the laziness on display here. In 4th place, again, unfortunately, is Army of Thieves. This was still pretty bad. How it didn't end up just above American Boogie Woman is kind of embarrassing and shows how bad this month was. If you take away the fact that this is a prequel nobody asked for to an already shitty movie. It holds up a little better, but it's still not terribly exciting. The plot is still stupid, the characters are still shit, and the utterly god-awful references to Army of the Dead just reek of lazy writing. Every character is a cardboard cutout. They are all cliche stereotypes of this type of film. None of the jokes get a laugh. None of them do. The acting is hit and miss. The heist scenes are incredibly boring because it's literally just a guy turning a knob. That is not the only kind of lock people use, director, and especially you, Zack Snyder. And the tie-ins to Army of the Dead were just lazy. And who asked for this? Again, who asked for this nonsense? Sure as hell wasn't me. Bringing us into our top 3 is Halloween Kills. This was still... Again, this really shows how bad this month was, because this one's also really bad. It's not the worst of the franchise. I think Halloween Resurrection still holds that. But it still has such utter garbage. The plot for it is essentially people are banding together to take on Michael Myers. This should not have been a full 2-hour movie. I think this is actually only an hour 40, but this still didn't need to be a full-length movie. This should have been half a movie, and it kind of is. It was revealed that there would be 2 more films after the 2018 film. There would be 2 more, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, and I think they let that go to their head. And they thought, okay, we just need to make this film set up the next one. And that's all this film is. It's just a boring-as-hell slasher film with no scares. None of the nuance that the original film had. I still stand by the original's probably the only legitimately great film in this god-awful franchise. And the acting's all fine, but none of the characters have that much depth to them. Honestly, my favorite character in this was Cameron, Allison's boyfriend. That shouldn't happen. And some of the kills are creative, but it's just mindless. That's the best way to describe this film, is mindless. It doesn't further the story, really, and that ending was garbage. I think we can all agree that ending was garbage. Our runner-up is Dune. In my review, I gave this quite a high score. I kind of retract that now. It has deteriorated a bit, and after rewatching on HBO Max, I have some issues with it, but it's still a decent film. Scratch that. It's kind of half and half. The special effects look great, the acting's all great, and the score is actually very well done. The problem is, I felt nothing throughout this entire film. I saw a review on Letterboxd that sums up my emotions about this perfectly. Or lack thereof, I guess. If you like to look at the color orange and feel no emotions for 2.5 hours, you'll like this movie. Pretty much sums up my second viewing experience, staring at the color orange, feeling absolutely nothing for 2.5 hours. But like I said, all the technicalities the movie does very well, but it's just a really long prologue. A 2.5 hour prologue. That is horseshit. And it has a really bad ending that I couldn't stand. It's just, I know I'm doing this with my hand a lot, but it's summing up how angry I am with most of these films. And Dune Part 2 better be a lot better. It's already been confirmed, even though I don't think it's warranted. This movie bombed at the box office. But whatever. If it's better, I'll let it slide. And of course, our number 1 is Venom, Let There Be Carnage. What else would it have been? Marvel has been very good recently. Well, they've been good since 2008. But this year, they've still been, unlike DC, they've kept their footing. This isn't an MCU film, but even Sony is still trying to keep their footing, at least. Because I think the last really bad Sony Marvel movie was Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance in 2013. The Amazing Spider-Man films were great. I liked the first Venom. Morbius actually looks pretty cool, actually. They just released a new trailer for that, and it looks pretty badass. And this one was a lot of fun. It was an extremely short viewing experience. I believe it was only an hour 37. The villains were the highlight for the film, as everybody has said. The chemistry between Brock and Venom is still superb, just like it was in the first film. The comedy gets a lot of laughs. The action while there's not a ton of it, is incredibly fun. I do wish there were more conflicts between Venom and Carnage, but there is one really long one at the end, and it's very well done. My only issue with it is, I wish the stakes had been made higher. This should have been a Maximum Carnage adaptation. And if you've read Maximum Carnage, you know that it is a huge scale event. This was very small scale, much like the first movie, and I feel like that was a mistake. You already had your small scale movie with the first one, even though the world was kind of still at stake. It was still virtually a one-on-one symbiote fight. This one should have been more than that, but it really wasn't. But with that aside, the movie is still a lot of fun, and it made a shitload of money, too. It is the second highest grossing film of the year, just behind Shang-Chi. So it seems like other people are enjoying it too. And that's all we got for October. Going into November, we have some good ones, it looks like. We've got Eternals coming up. I don't give a shit what the review bombings are saying, because honestly, I stopped trusting reviews a long time ago. And it's being review bombed on IMDb and on Rotten Tomatoes. Those critics are bullshit. Tick, Tick, Boom, that looks awesome. The Andrew Garfield musical. Home Sweet Home Alone. We're screwed. So thank you all so much for watching. Leave in the comments what was your ranking of the October films you saw. Did you like any of the ones I hated? Did you hate the one I liked? And yeah, I don't have an outro for this one, so see ya.